What's up, guys? Today we're going to be learning about the different types of materials that you can consider to build a soundproof wall or upgrade an existing soundproof wall. To help us do that, I'm going to be showing you some excerpts from an interview I conducted with a local acoustic engineer slash luthier who goes by the name Wissam. And he's actually going to be talking about two materials that I personally haven't really heard of anywhere else. So that's going to be super interesting. I hope that you guys stick around to the very end. And if anything, it'll just be a nice refresher of the knowledge that you probably already have. So let's get right into it.
Well, ideally is to put one layer of, let's say, fiberglass
Insulation?
insulation, regular heat insulation fiberglass or sound insulation fiberglass. For a low budget, it doesn't matter really. It's better.
It's more cost efficient, the fiberglass.
Fiberglass is cost efficient, and then you can buy more and cover more, and you
Okay.
get the same result.
So in this clip, Wissam isn't saying that fiberglass insulation is better than mineral wool. He's just saying that with the money you'd be saving with fiberglass insulation, you can actually double it up and get better results with a double layer of fiberglass insulation than with one layer of mineral wool. So that's an important distinction to make. But it's also an important thing to consider when you're purchasing materials. So I agree with what he's saying. I think that fiberglass insulation is going to be better for you if you want to save some money and actually get better results with more.
So one of the insulation that they use is just plastic sheet. So
Not cheap, but like a film we're talking about.
sheet film. Yeah, any plastic, even this kind of plastic.
So interesting.
Thick. The 11 mil, the thickest. So that's it's gonna make it's a vapor barrier. It's an air barrier. So basically, it's gonna create a barrier in the beginning, like from the outside. We're going from the outside in.
All right, so this is one of those secret ingredients I was talking about earlier. So what Wissam basically told me is that plastic film is actually used as a soundproofing material in vehicles. So we don't hear it being talked about much in the DIY soundproofing world, but it's actually a really great material to consider at the beginning of your soundproof sandwich. So you would actually put this closer to the outside, behind the insulation. So it will be plastic film and then insulation from the outside in, and that would create the best results.
After the insulation, I would put Chiprock.
Okay.
Not necessarily finished or plastered or anything, just screwed with acoustic seal around the
right. Acoustic seal,
you,
we're talking about the green glue, right?
not necessarily the green glue.
Just caulking, or
the green? No, acoustic seal is not the green glue. The green glue is a different. It's much more liquid than the acoustic seal.
So acoustic seal, we're talking about caulking, basically. That's just going to fill the air gaps.
So basically the weather caulking.
So in this one, Wissam is simply recommending to close off our wall with a standard piece of drywall, ideally 5/8 inch. And but the important thing to keep in mind is that you're going to want to definitely seal up those cracks with, basically your average or a typical caulking that you'll find at the hardware store. So it doesn't have to be anything special. Just the weather insulation caulking will do the trick. And what we're trying to do here is basically get an airtight seal on those walls.
From that, you can remove either into one layer of Chiprock and then resilient bars. So basically, you have insulation, Chiprock,
resilient
bars,
okay,
Sonopan, Gyprock.
Okay. And that's
So that will give you a super good result from either a sound going in or coming out.
okay. So here, Wissam is actually recommending somewhat of an upgrade on the existing wall construction that you already have in place. And that will be to add resilient bars on top of your existing drywall. Normally, they're actually added in between the first layer of drywall and the studs to decouple them from one another. But in this case, we're actually going to be putting the resilient channels on top of the drywall, and we're going to be layering basically a combination of a piece of sonopan and drywall. So you'll have a wall that has basically 3 layers, and those layers are actually going to have an air gap in between them. So that's going to give you super good results when it comes to soundproofing your room.
So you're talking about $10,000. Half of that, which is affordable, I think will be affordable for most people who have a job. You would cancel the resilient bar and the sonopan. So you would have maybe 10% less or even less, 5% less improvement.
Oh, interesting.
Then
So the only thing to keep in mind with this upgrade is that it'll cost you about 2 times the initial cost of the materials that you would get without the sonopan and the additional drywall, including the resilient channels. And the thing is, you'll only get about a 5 to 10% increase in soundproofing. So we need to ask ourselves, is this actually worth it? Is it actually worth the extra expense? And if not, you can also consider doubling up your drywall instead of adding this basically additional soundproofing mechanism. So that would be, instead of closing it off with 1 piece of drywall, you would close it off with 2 pieces of drywall. And you can either add caulking or green glue in between to basically dampen them. So basically, we talked about already all the materials that we're going to be needing. So that will be plastic film, insulation. So whether that's fiberglass or mineral wool, that's going to be up to you. We also have the sonopan and obviously drywall, and obviously also the acoustic caulking, or just any regular caulking would do the trick, or
yeah, well, silicone-based caulking
Silicone-based caulking.
would do well. One thing also could be added, so that's an extra expense. So the perimeter of between the perimeter of gypsum board or drywall, there are like foam ropes.
So here's another one of those secret soundproofing materials that I was talking about earlier. And in this case, Wissam is talking about a material that we refer to as foam ropes. And these foam ropes are basically used to decouple walls from one another. So you would actually insert them in the cracks that, where the walls intersect. And so, yeah, in this last segment, let's hear what Wissam has to say about them.
And this is more efficient if you don't have resilient bars. So we're talking about the version of, you have 2 layers of Gyprock. So you keep the Gyprock from touching each other. Every wall, the Gyprock doesn't touch at the corner. The Gyprock doesn't touch the other Gyprock. So there'll be that kind of foam between the Gyprock and the floor, the Gyprock and the ceiling.
So it's kind of like caulking in a sense, but it takes a bit more space.
It's about half an inch, or and
it's kind of like an insert. You're putting it in there.
It's around. It's exactly, you're putting a rope inside of a groove. So you keep the groove around your perimeter, and then you insert that, and then you can plaster on top.
Interesting. So that's just like the walls, they don't resonate with each other.
They don't resonate with each other.
All right, so that concludes our episode on soundproofing materials specifically for walls. I hope that you guys got a lot out of this, and that maybe you learned about one or two materials that you hadn't considered before for soundproofing. If you want to get in touch with Wissam, I'm actually going to leave a link to where you can reach him down in the description box if ever you need a consultation, or if you're in the Montreal QC area and you would actually like him to work on your studio. That's definitely a service that he offers. I'll also be leaving some links to the products we discussed if you want to actually see what they look like if you've never heard of them, and find out where you can purchase them. So that's all going to be in the description box. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing, liking, and sharing it with your friends and fellow acoustic/home recording studio enthusiasts. And we've got more videos coming in regards to soundproofing and acoustic treatment, so stay tuned for those, and we'll see you in the next one.